Hello and welcome to Easiest Pod with Mr. Carpenter. I am Mr. Carpenter, and this is a review of the polynomials to prepare you for the polynomials exam. So to waste no time, let's get started. Number one, which polynomial has a degree of 4? When we think of degree, we think of the largest exponent, always. So a quadratic has a degree of 2 because its largest exponent is a 2 because it's a squared function, right? So in this case, I'd look for the largest exponent, not the largest coefficient, and that would be b. Actually, no, it would be c, because c has an x to the 5th. That's what I'm looking for. Number 2, which of the following polynomials is written in standard form? When I think of standard form, I'm thinking highest to lowest exponent. And which in this case would be answer choice C, because it goes 3, 2, and then x to the power of 1. Number 3 requires synthetic division. So we're going to build our house, and the opposite of that sign will go into the house. So that's a positive 2, so I'll put negative 2 in the house. And then the coefficients of the numerator, the terms of the numerator, will go outside the house. And just keep it in mind that if I skip a term, for example, I skipped x cubed here, then I have to put a 0 in as a placeholder. So I have 1x to the 4th, so a 1. I have no x cubed, so I got to put a 0. Then I got negative 5x squared, 4x, and 14. Carry down our 1. 1 times negative 2 is negative 2. 0 minus 2 is negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 2 is 4. And you just keep going down the line. So I will do that now. Okay, and then you knock that exponent down 1. So this is a degree of 4. So I'm going to start with a degree of 3, and these are my new coefficients. So I have x cubed minus 2x squared minus 1x plus 6, and I have a remainder of 2, so I just got to divide that by x plus 2 as well. And that would be answer choice A. Number 4 is a simple one. It's just asking you, can you graph a polynomial and identify it with the one over that's being shown to you? So if you put all of these into your graphing calculator and check them out and see which one could represent the one over there, you will notice that it is A. Number 5, you of course could graph this and check out its solutions, which are the same as its zeros or its x-intercepts. I will show you factoring because they all have an x, so I can factor out an x. And when factoring out an x, I have x squared plus 4x plus 5. And then I can factor out the stuff in the middle inside the parentheses. That's a trinomial. Right? Oh, sorry, I forgot that I had to change this question. That's a 6. And no. That's a 5. And that's a 6. There we go. So you got x times x squared plus 5x plus 6. And this factors to x plus 3, x plus 2. Because 3 plus 2 is 5, and 3 times 2 is 6. That's what I'm looking for. And this gives me 3 solutions, right? I either have x equals 0, x equals negative 3, or x equals negative 2, but definitely not x equals negative 1. So that would be answer choice C. Number 6, we're going to employ the same game plan, except we just have to understand our remainder theorem. If x plus 1 is a factor of the function, that means that x equals negative 1 is a solution. So if I plugged in negative 1, I would get 0, right? Because x equals negative 1, that's a 0 of the function. So in this case, x equals 2 would be a solution, x equals negative 5 is a solution, and x equals 6 is a solution. And from here, if you don't feel like factoring by grouping, you can do a lot of different things here. The big thing is you can just graph the function and check out its zeros and see which one matches. You could also plug these into the function and see which one yields an output of 0. Either way, you'll do this and you'll find out that the answer is A. Number 7, synthetic division. Opposite of -3 is 3, so that goes in the house. Take the coefficients. So I got 1, -2, -5, and 6. Carry the 1 down, and then I just multiply and then add. Multiply, then add. 3 times 1 is 3. -2 plus 3 is 1. 3 times 1 is 3. -5 plus 3 is -2. 3 times -2 is -6. And that makes 0. So I have a remainder of 0. It's a degree 3 polynomial, so I'll start with a degree 2. 1x squared plus 1x minus 2 is my final answer. Same thing over here. Plus 3, so I'll put a -3 in the box. And then, remember, we skipped the x squared term. So I got 1x cubed. I don't have an x squared, so I need a 0 as its placeholder. Then -7, +6. Same process. And we start with x squared. So I got 1x squared minus 3x plus 2 with a remainder of 0. And that's my final answer. Last but not least, we have solving quadratics. Now the big thing here is, once again, or not solving quadratics, solving polynomials. You can always solve a polynomial by graphing it and identifying what its zeros are. Okay, that will get you some of the points, not all of the points because you didn't do algebraically, but it's better than nothing or attempting a method that you don't know and getting it wrong entirely, right? But I will show you the factoring methods that we have here. For example, when we're solving polynomials, we set them equal to 0. And we identify if we can factor out a greatest common factor, which we can because they all have an x. So x, factor out like so. Once again, I'm just dividing every term by the greatest common factor. Right? X cubed divided by x, 6x squared divided by x, and 8x divided by x. And you just have to know your quotient rule, and that should be pretty manageable. Then, this makes two equations. I either have x equals 0, which is a solution. Don't forget that solution. Or x squared plus 6x plus 8 is a solution. Right? And then that's a trinomial that I can factor out. Factors of 8 are 4 and 2. 4 times 2 is 8, and 4 plus 2 is 6. So those are my lucky numbers, and I will rewrite this as x plus 4, x plus 2, which gives me solutions of -4 and -2. Second one is just like that, except we don't have to factor our x first. We're starting with a quadratic. So factors of -24. Well, I could do 8 and -3, but that will add up to +5, and I want -5. So how about we do -8 and +3, which also multiplies to -24, but now that adds up to -5. So that gives me the two numbers that I desire, which means this factors out to x minus 8, x plus 3. So what are my solutions? Well, I just flip their signs. X equals 8, x equals -3. You also, since this is a quadratic, a degree of 2, you can use the quadratic formula up here, which I will show you at the last problem. I don't know why I just did that. Okay. This one, 9x squared minus 49. We can factor it out using the difference of perfect squares. So 3 squared x squared minus 7 squared turns into 3x minus 7, 3x plus 7. We can do that. What we can also do is just solve the equation because there's only one variable, right? So I have 9x squared minus 49 equals 0. And I just do equation solving, right? I got to add 49 to both sides.
Howdy.
Then I got to divide both sides by 9. And that's going to give me what looks like a gross number, but it works out in the end. And then we're left with a square root. The square root of x. And remember, we're taking a square root. We're going to get a positive and a negative solution because we multiply two negative numbers, that gives us a positive number. And this will end up being plus or minus 7/3. Moving on to the next one. This is a greatest common factor problem. We can factor out a 2 because they're both divisible by 2. And we can factor out an x squared because the smallest exponent is 2. And they all have a variable. Factoring 3 minus 2. You will get this. And once again, you cannot forget about this solution here. This times this equals 0. So either you're 0, the only way this happens is if x is 0, or you're 0. So that means you're negative 9. This one, you can do a lot of different ways. I think a lot of people are going to tackle it by greatest common factor and not see the hidden dops that you could do, and that is okay. We can definitely factor out a 4, and we can factor out an x squared. And when we do that, x to the 4's cancel out. X to the 4th divided by x squared is x squared. Minus 16 divided by 4 is 4. X squares cancel out. So what do I have here? I have 4x squared equals 0, which only happens when x is 0. So there's that solution. Do not forget this solution. Then I have x squared minus 4 equals 0, which of course you can do dops, but you can also just solve it, right? Add 4 to both sides. Take its square root, plus or minus 2. Then this last one right here requires you to either do grouping, which a lot of you don't like, or the quadratic formula. So I label my A, B, and C values. So A is 3, B is 5, and C is negative 2. And those get plugged into the quadratic formula, which of course can go into your calculator. Negative B plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4AC all over 2A. And then we just simplify. This becomes 49. So I got negative 5 plus or minus 7 over 6, which will give you 2 over 6, which is 1/3 as a solution, and negative 12 over 6, which is negative 2 as a solution. And with that, we take care of the entire review. Thank you for watching.